Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of our Express with Ease segment on VUTV By Vijaybhoomi. As we know, Express with Ease is a special weekly episodic segment where we discuss topics of great importance that require immediate attention with students. Today, we have with us three panelists from Mayo College. We have with us Aviral Narang, Kulvir Sharma, and Kunal Grover. Welcome, guys, for today's panel discussion. Thanks for joining in. So,
Thank you for inviting us.
great, guys. Thanks for joining in. And for the viewers, today we are going to discuss on a critical topic. It's about India at the rate 75. India at 75. How does the youth feel like? We know independence is the freedom of soul, a perception of the mind, and a feeling understood by the heart. This freedom and perception are that of liberation, patriotism, self dependence, and other such things. When all of this is put together and taken as a movement, it's a big responsibility of the youth of the nation and those who created. That nation is India. And we are going to discuss all these policies, all the economic ideals, and what does the youth feel like and how their vision about India being completing its 75 years of independence. So, guys, the first question I would like to address: what are your thoughts about when you heard of this initiative called Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which is an initiative started by the government of India to celebrate and commemorate the 75 years of progressive India and the glorious history of its people, culture, and achievements. As we know, it's a path-breaking initiative. It envisions how India should be in her 75 years of independence and seeks to bring together to all stakeholders, including the industry, government, institutions, community groups, and individuals to translate the vision into a reality. So, hearing this initiative out, what were your initial thoughts? We will start with Kulveer. What were your initial thoughts hearing this initiative out?
When I first heard about this initiative, all I could think of was just like the ration card system was introduced for to get rid of hunger and poverty, and the way India has been growing, by defeating all the barriers that it had in the growth. India at 75 initiative would also help revolutionize us and our country further.
I guess that was a quite like you had a different vision around it. Aviral, what were your initial thoughts?
I mean, as an Indian, as a patriot, it was really great to hear that the government was trying a new initiative. Like at the end of the day, when you're just about to go to bed, you introspect what you've done. So just like that, when a new dawn is about to settle and we are about to step into a new age, the government sets a new platform out for us to, actually introspect about what we've done in the past 75 years and to look back and realize how much we've achieved and how much we have to achieve. So it definitely was a very good move when you ask me from the government side. And as an Indian, I loved the new initiative.
Great. I guess that's that you how you speak like a patriotic guy. Like you love the initiatives which are taken by the Indian as an Indian. Kunal, what were your thoughts? Would also love to hear that.
I think for any nation which has so long been oppressed by Britishers or by Mughals or many different kings,
Yeah.
India needs someone or a resort, a rock to find solace, and that we can find in our reflection of what we have survived through, of what is lying ahead of us, and that, as Aviral said, is a chance to introspect. Obviously, and as we go on introspecting, at the end of the day, we are going to find the truth. So that solace comes with things such as the Amrit Mahotsav or anything whatsoever.
Great. I guess that was some good ideal thoughts we had about the initiative, and that's quite impressive to know as an youth how you feel about the initiatives taken by the government. Because as we discussed as I discussed earlier, the youth of the nation is yet to define how India should vision in the coming years and how India should be progressive, because that's quite depends on the youth of the nation. Going ahead, what do you think, Kunal? What would be the political kickbacks that India faces as challenges as of now? What are the political kickbacks?
To be very honest, today what we feel today as youth or today as a general, in general public sphere, we see that there is extremism in the ideologies. Obviously, there are going to be political setbacks and economic setbacks as we go on forward. But the extremism and ideologies hinder our further development. There is extremism in the way we eat. People are being marginalized for the food they eat, for the dress, and many other such things. So this kind of extremism in decision making in the ideological aspects leads to uncertainty. And from that uncertainty, all the economic problems that today India faces can be summed up that they are springing from that uncertainty. People are hoarding money and they are saving, so circulation is at all-time high. But at the saving aspect, it's not so high, right? So people are saving more and more, and that's not good for the economy. And because of that saving, we are not able to create new opportunities. And we have so much youth. And, at a time when world is aging, India is getting younger and younger. So we have time with us, which no other country has. And we have so much talent, but the talent is useless if we don't have the opportunity. So that's the problem that we need to address.
Great. I guess, Kunal, you have identified some great problems as you mentioned. And we have already seen, like the economists have already seen, and the world also have seen some cases of like the deflation in the Japan, with the case of deflation in Japan, where the majority of the population dates back in the old days. The majority of the population has been old age people, and they're having a most saving attitude rather having an investing attitude.
And
And
Ashwini, if I may add, you
sure.
see, when we see the graph of the Indian population, we see that the most of people are in their 15 to 40 age group.
Yeah.
We have so much energy to capture,
Yeah,
right?
certainly.
And that, economic problems and political extremism hinders that. So at the fact that we are having this conversation is a big relief, because we are living in a free India where we can have a free conversation and a free discourse about it.
Great. Actually, that's the initiative. That's the initiative we have taken in VUTV, so that we are engaging the youth and the students, talk about the challenges, talk about the problems, so that can be a good channel to discuss about, and we could share the same opportunities with other students and also encourage them to fight against these challenges. That's the thing, Kunal. And as you mentioned, India is a population which India has a population. Majority of them is from the youth background, and we can pretty well channelize them, energize the youth, energize their energy in a better way, and to achieve better growth, economic growth. I see Aviral raising up his hand. Aviral, do you like to add something?
Sure, I have a lot of points actually. I'll take this with the very first page of a constitution. So, the first page of a constitution reads: We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens the values that we have. So, I'll address each value one by one, and I'll tell you the fault and the kickbacks that we faced in each value that is promised to every Indian. Justice, social, economic, and political. Now, when we talk about justice, what is justice? Now, justice for us, for a normal, a common man, is something else. But when we look at what is really happening, when we look back and see cases in the Supreme Court where I would not name the judge, but a judge at a very high post is they're alleged that they have an allegation against them that they're sexually harassing their workers, and that same particular judges sits at the head of the jury. And when people question the part of justice, when people start questioning how can a judge who's such at such a high level with such high influence judge their own case, become a member of jury for their own case, what the judge does is they make one of their friends the head of the jury. Now, when we talk about justice, I don't really understand. Is this what justice is to every Indian? Let's talk about the second value: liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, right? Now, when we talk about liberty, we see stand up comedy clubs that it's like the new trending spot for teenagers to hang around to listen to some good jokes. We see they're being broken down, they're being torn apart just because people are heard laughing inside, just because somebody through the medium of satire tries to point out facts that is going on in our country. If something is wrong and the political figures don't agree with it, the stand-up comedy club has to close down. The third point, equality of status, opportunity, and to promote among all fraternity. Now, when we talk about equality, we already see that we are not equal. Even though we're striving to become equal, as of now, we all are not equal. Some of us have extreme opportunities which may lead us to outshine, which may lead us to dominate the world around us. If you are born in a pretty decent family, I won't say a powerful family like of that of a powerful politician, you're bound to not be equal with the other common man who's the son of a beggar. You're bound to not go to jail while your driver will go to jail because of your wrongdoings. So I don't see where, even though we are striving to become a good nation, we are still a huge way to go to achieve what we've set for ourselves.
Certainly, Aviral. I guess you have clearly highlighted all the points and how it is a kickback, political kickback, like is achieving the vision we are aiming for. And you have like truly highlighted about the cases of maybe I can call it the word as nepotism. You have highlighted the respect and also the highlighted of free speech. Like in one of our last episode, we have discussed about hate speech in India, and we discuss about the how someone has a liberty to talk rubbish and how someone is kicked out from a live show. Like we have seen a lot of comedians, a lot of stand-up comedians, when they try to take a political satire as a form of comedy, they have been they have been debarred from their shows, they have been punished, and they have been imprisoned for their activities. So you have clearly highlighted, it's a good point you have highlighted. Kulvir, coming to you, or do you want to
Yes.
add something to this?
Yes, even I have a point. Um, India has a bribery rate of 35% and has a long history of corruption with the worst records in entire Asia. So that's another major political setback that we have in our country.
Yeah, certainly. Corruption is it's a deep-rooted issue which we are facing since our independence, and it's quite deep-rooted to the as you mentioned to it's in every
Right.
sector. It's in every sector. Maybe it's like we are talking about the government sector, which we are talking about the public
Yeah.
sector.
And then not just corruption and bribery, even gender discrimination still needs to be resolved here. It still is a persistent issue.
Yeah, certainly. Great. I guess we have pretty much highlighted some of the major kickbacks, like of the if we see some from the political side and from the economic side also. So, is there anything from the economic side which you feel like this is a kickback, and this is India still faces as a challenge? Aviral, you want to state something?
I mean, I think Kunal should go first for this. He's done a lot of research on economics and he plans to pursue economics in his future degrees. So I'll take up after him if that's all right.
Sure.
Yeah, Kunal.
Yeah, thank you. What I feel personally is that when we go out on the street, we see vendors. And in our homes also we see sweepers and caretakers. So there's a large chunk of Indian economy that's unorganized. It's informal, right? We don't count that, and that informality hinders in the parliament. We see people who are standing behind our president, right? So they are not part of the formal economy, and that's a fact. So we are not making a large chunk of our economy adding to the growth. So, and second thing is there is discrimination in the economic sectors as well. So Dalits, or backwards, that we call, or Harijans, or there is a lot of opportunity, but that opportunity is not being grabbed. We are giving reservation, and that's the right thing to give a reservation. We need to bring those backwards to forwards, but they don't have the opportunity in the right way. They have job vacancies, but they cannot add up to it. They have college opportunities, but they have family restrictions for it. So that large chunk of population is not a part of our economy. And that basically brings up the question, are we really moral when we look at the Indian economy? Are we doing the justice to people who have strived for so long, who have been part of agriculture sector, agriculture labor, the indentured labor? Are they really part of us? So if we are able to tackle the problem of human resource that is underlying in our economy, I think our economy will boost up 3 or 4 times more. So even Niti Aayog is also talking about that we have to bring in new policies. But what are the policies? There's a vacuum for those. There is only talk, there is only conversation, just like this one. But there's no policy on the ground. Right? So we need to establish that. We need to bring up that in our economy. And only then we'll be able to talk of a better future, if any future at all.
Great. I guess you have. I would strongly agree on this point. Key mobilizing the unorganized sector and working more on that to like basically bringing into the mainstream.
Yeah,
Mobilizing the,
we are talking about self-reliance and self-sufficiency, Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is all farce if we are not including a major chunk of our population and we are saying that you are useless. Right?
certainly.
Yeah, because if we don't give them the opportunity, they are useless. There's no saying in that. You need not say that you are useless, but you won't give them the opportunity. Right? So we need to give them the opportunity in order to truly, quote unquote, get a Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Certainly. I guess also if we talk about the sectors like the primary sector, tertiary sector, and secondary sector, we see a major chunk of the workforce in India is involved in the primary sector. Yet it contributes less than, yet it contributes quite less according to the sectors contributing to tertiary and secondary to the GDP. If we talk about
We see
primary,
dhabas with meager kitchens. We see sweepers who are working. We see cobblers. But they're not part of the economy. They're just working for their household.
yeah,
They're working for their food. And they also have a problem कि अगर मैंने आज काम किया तो क्या मुझे रात को खाना मिलेगा? So that's the thing. The Indian population, a major part of the Indian population that lives in the Hindi heartland, is afraid will they get the food for tonight? So we need to include them in the economy. And only then we can think of the future.
truly, truly, truly. So Aviral and Kulveer, do you have some additional points to add on to Kunal's?
Yes. I feel that the tremendous population pressure in our nation is the reason why not everybody can be a part of the economy, because there are a certain number of jobs, but more than triple the number of people applying for it.
Yeah.
And so same goes for the unemployment that persists in the rural areas of India. Like India has been launching a lot of campaigns which help people get employment, at least the minimum wages required for a person to contribute to the economy. But even then, because of the massive population, it isn't working out.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I add something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kunal.
Yeah. So I gave an example of a cobbler, let's say. Now, a cobbler need not apply for a railway job. Being a cobbler is in itself a job.
Yeah.
We need to acknowledge that and give them the right infrastructure for doing their cobbling right. That's it. That's job creation. Not getting out vacancies and keeping people underemployed. Underemployment is a greater danger than unemployment itself. So we need to get those cobblers doing their thing the right way. That's formalizing the economy.
Great. If I've just got it right, just you you mean that we should acknowledge their efforts. We should acknowledge their efforts, and we should include more often. We should acknowledge the efforts of the unorganized sector, which also has a major chunk of involvement in the economy.
Yeah.
We should encourage them, and we should acknowledge their efforts and how they are making the efforts. And as Kulvi rightly mentioned, there are not enough jobs in the market floating. There are not enough jobs floating in the market, and we have certainly seen the case of disguised unemployment in the sector of primary sector. The more number of people are involved in the agriculture, yet contributing less to the GDP as such, because of the case of disguised employment. So certainly we can address. So these are some of the issues we should address that. And Kunal, as you rightly mentioned about the Niti Aayog thing, like we can start with Aviral. Aviral, do you feel the Niti Aayog is doing the functioning of Niti Aayog, which has been started since last few years, has seen some significant changes?
To be honest, not a lot. With Niti Aayog settling in, the only change that I personally have experienced as an Indian, it is related to, very honestly, just the initiation of startups. That's it. That's all that I've heard talk about. The other day I was listening to a politician coming up and talking about how we have initiated so and so many number of startups. But the point is that we are not only about how many startups we begin, but we are also about how many startups actually survive the stages of funding. And Niti Aayog should be there to support those startups survive the primary stages of funding, while it's seed funding, A level, B level, C level, T level. But okay, that is one aspect of Niti Aayog that they should look into. But they have a lot of other responsibilities as well when we come to talking about actually planning the future of India. Niti Aayog is basically the think tank of the government, right? So their duty is to think and provide us good policies to secure the future of every Indian and give us the best of opportunities, which I don't believe we as Indians are getting as of now. Niti Aayog is they've just begun recently, but they need to start working and really put an effort to making this country a good place.
Great. I guess you've highlighted about talking about the aspects of how they can help the startups. Like there is a huge craze, like as we have seen in the case of recently Shark Tank has come to India, and we have seen in the case a lot of startups are being pitched, and we have seen a craze of there is a wave, like we have seen seen the case of entrepreneurial wave starting in India, but not every startup survives. So Niti Aayog's job should be to mobilize the efforts and to basically create the ecosystem, how they can survive, how they can like provide them with the mentorship, funding, help them with the right team. So that could be the efforts they can put on to make it happen. The startups will make it happen, and they can build up. But not, but tremendously, we have seen a case of booming unicorns in India in the last few years. We have seen a huge increase in the number of unicorns we have seen. But certainly, I guess there are efforts in the we have seen in the initiative of Make in India, Startup India. These are some of the initiatives which have tried their best to promote the startups and to promote this culture of startup entrepreneurship and all this thing, so that rather focusing more on provide like rather focusing more on helping the job seekers, they are planning to create more job givers. So indirectly it will solve the problems of job seekers. So going ahead, Kunal and Gulveer, do you had something to add about regarding Niti Aayog's initiatives?
First thing is, there are many startups, there are many unicorns, but as soon as the market corrects, their stock or their share also goes down, right?
Yeah.
It just needs a correction in the market, and it will happen every 6 months. There's no denying it. The second thing is, Niti Aayog principally means policy makers. We can say that. Earlier, our policymakers had the power to impose the policy on the states. But because of the Niti Aayog, the new code of conduct and the new constitution of the Niti Aayog, they don't have the power to impose the policy, but they just have the power to suggest it. And that is one of the reasons why we don't see our policies working on the ground. There are many startup India, there is startup India, there are many startup provisions provided by the government itself. But the funding is only given to the people who have some backdoor or under the table entry. Or sometimes because the idea is so great that they don't have any choice. Right? They don't want any collateral with it. But they are not getting anything out of it too. Why does the officer give you the money or sanction your loan or sanction your funding just because you have a good idea. What does he or she get out of it? And that's something that we need to address when it comes to startups in India, and with the Niti Aayog, obviously.
Great. I guess you have highlighted some great points, Kunal, as you mentioned about providing a effective channel for the startups to boost. And it's rightly said that not every startup gets this like the right door entry. As you mentioned about talking about under the table bribe, all these things. So yeah, every startup doesn't get the right ecosystem to grow. So going ahead with the things, like we have mentioned about the Niti Aayog thing, and we have also talked about the initiative which is taken by the government about India at the 75. So Kulveer, my next question to you would
Yes.
be, how do you think that are we doing better with the indicators set by the UN and the WHO, like the World Organization, which have set up this indexes about HDI?
Well,
Yeah.
it is supposed to benefit us, but the prerequisites that all of them have is the reason why the Niti Aayog also has not been completely successful.
Cool. Yeah, Viral.
Yeah, so talking about the indexes that international organizations set for everyone, I believe the only reason India is a developing country right now because we have a huge contrast between everything, right? In some cases, we are doing the best in the world when we come to say environment. Our prime minister got an award from from the United Nations recently. So when we talk about aspects like environment, we may be leading, but when we talk about social justice, when we talk about equality, when we talk about you know harmony, we are lagging behind than even some of the worst countries in the world. I shouldn't call them the worst countries, but looking at their political structure and how the situation is in their country, we are
Underperforming.
worse than them. Sorry.
Underperforming is the
Yeah,
right.
underperforming, yes, that is a word and we can say that, but to be honest, if you go to the real rural part of India, you will still see that there are gang wars happening, right? Now in a in a developing nation, or if you look at the United Nations, we're not supposed to see that. The indexes say that we are guaranteed to so many human rights, but do we get all those human rights? No, we don't. Even though the a majority of those are not legally binding, but those are the basic human rights that every person should be guaranteed. And yet if we cannot be promised that, then we are lagging behind as a country in a lot of cases. But again, in some cases, yes, we have achieved the targets that they set for us.
Great. I guess we have highlighted this aspect of the like the gang wars, all this topic. So probably like the we can address this situation. Ki are India like is India still progressing with the communal disharmony? And we have talked about this deep-rooted casteism, and we have talked about this gang wars, all this thing. So can we say ki India is still progressing with this thing?
Let me let me add something to the indicators.
Sure, sure.
When we look at the indicators, the Western idea of indication of development is the first ideal is of material prosperity, right? So the health part, the education part, the environment part, and the transition between developing and developed is just of this thing. Do we have economic well-being? If we do have a good economy, a good functioning economy, our health is going to be good. It is going there is going to be social equity. There is going to be uh, I say spiritual wealth. So there are many dynamics to it. That's why, because we are in a transition, and you see in 1947 the mortality rate of an Indian person was just 49 years. Now it's 70. We are certainly doing great,
Yeah.
but there is still a long road that we must tread to achieve that economic well-being, and then to come on those indicators. And given the fact that the prime minister is getting a word, as Raghuram Rajan puts it, we have fudged our data for so long that even the prime minister doesn't himself trust it, right? So it's all it all goes to a farce when we think of it. But when we think on the other side of the spectrum, there is opportunity, there is a fine line where we see that we can go do good in the economic sphere and then achieve health for all, or we say food for all, or we say information for all. So that's one of the indication that we need to look. And there's no indication that shows the development of percentage, that we have grown from 49 to 70. It is not shown everywhere. That it is shown that we just have 70. So then we come in underperforming caste, or we come in low things.
Certainly, as you, I guess you must have highlighted that it's not about talking about the growth, rather it compares with the rest of the countries. But certainly, as you highlighted, just we have certainly achieved a bigger growth, but yet to achieve like we have to yet to achieve better comparison between the other underperforming countries, and we have to get a good rank in the set.
Western indicators and Western philosophers are saying from since the dawn of time that you should be your opponents. You should not compare yourself. But we compare that, okay, first is America, second is China, third is this, and fourth. So how are we going to celebrate what we have done? Right. So I think it brings me to this Amrit Mahotsav also, that we are celebrating, taking the nectar out of it.
Yeah. Great. So back to the question which I was highlighting. Do we think India is still progressing with the efforts of communal disharmony and the deep-rooted casteism? Do you think, guys, do you think India is still progressing in the way we are trying to achieve the vision?
They are both things. We are progressing and we are not progressing.
Okay.
It is structurally changes. We see that, our economy, it's like our economy, it grow with a K-shaped recovery. Some spheres of our society were progressing, their wealth was multiplied. But however, on the other side, it was divided. If there was a family of 4, it was left to 2. Right? So we are progressing and we are not progressing. And in the name of God, we are being thugged of our identity only. That's one thing. So in the social sphere, we are not progressing at all. We are degenerating the idea of India as our freedom fighters envisioned it. Or whether it was secularism. I personally don't like the word secularism. I prefer to call it pluralism in India, because secularism is a Western term used in that context. So that pluralistic society that they envisioned. In 1947, while Jawaharlal Nehru was giving the speech in Parliament, his famous speech, Dash with Destiny, Mahatma Gandhi was not present there, and he was stopping the fires of communal rights in Bengal. And that tells us something, that our freedom fighters wanted us to live in harmony, right? Since 1986, we can see, we could see the outrage for Ram Janmabhoomi, and then we could say, the Godra rights. And we have seen number of instances, whether it was in the poll-bound state UP itself, we see political parties raising the slogan of Muzaffarnagar and how people went there.
Yeah.
So things like this encourage communal disharmony. And secondly, as far as the progress is concerned, we are progressing, but at what cost? Right? What is lying behind? What is lying in front of us? The youth today feels that India is not where they can progress. The tourism industry that was blooming as a fact till 2012. It shows that from 2012 itself, there was a downfall because of this disharmony.
Yeah.
You see any other industry. In 2017, we saw how the foreign investors pulled out their money out of the Indian stock market, principally because of demonetization and the disharmony caused because of that. People were standing in lines and then thinking that, okay, this is Muslim and this is Hindu or this is Christian. Who goes first? Kiska raja ye, right? And there's this documentary Ram Ke Naam, and they very particularly show that how the foreigners and how Indian people feel about this. Majority don't like this, and that not liking also comes from improgress. The moment I say that I don't like this or I like this, I immediately create a bias. And bias always hinders the development and progress of a country. So it needs to be addressed. And we are progressing little bit, but we are degenerating ourselves more and more day by day.
Great. I guess, Kunal, it was a more like you have answered some fair points and you have addressed some fair points. And as you rightly said, we are progressing at what cost? Like if the
We are trying to put medicine on our scars from history. We want water, but our tears with it. What do we like? Do we need to address it? Do we say that don't never forget, never, never forgive? This exactly shows the mentality of vigilante mobs, right? Who shouted "Mandir yahi banayenge" or anything like that.
yeah.
So we need to disarm them, and we need to prioritize what goes in the societal affair. After all, at the end of the day, a man is for the society and the society is for a man. So it must work in our favor. We need not save our society. We just need to save our mentality and our content of creator.
Great, Kunal. I guess that was some great points you have addressed. So enough, we have talked about a lot of problems and like what are the challenges and the kickbacks we have that the India faces. But right now, we would be going through as a youth. What do you feel? What could be the changes we can bring in? What would be the initiatives that the government should take on, or what would be the possible policies? Like as you have highlighted to the challenges, what could be the policies you would suggest that we can take up the government can take up, and as an individual also we can rely, because it's as you mentioned, everyone's efforts matters to make the aspiration to make to achieve the thing which we are, which all of us vision. So Avril, we can start with you. What could be the possible initiatives or these policies you can suggest?
Sure. The first thing that comes to my mind is talking about abuse of power. Now, that is something that rarely exists in a country, whether it is a common police traffic officer asking for bribery in case you don't wear a seatbelt, you have your mask off, or you just skip a red light, asking for a good 500 rupee note. Right from that moment to you know sitting in the parliament and only discussing issues of people when you're paid for it, not by the government but by the people themselves. So abuse of power is one thing that I think needs to be resolved. And how can we do that? It's a very basic solution. People should know the value of their votes. I mean, we don't have a lot of choices with the people sitting in the parliament right now, but I have a little hope with our generation that we might just produce the best of leaders that the world might see, and we might just have the responsible citizens of tomorrow who can actually save this country. So it's like saying, make India great again, just like a US campaign. Yes, we need to make India great again. But for that, we need to stop with the abuse of power. We need to stop the corruption that exists in a country. First of all, of course, that's very important. Not only corruption, we need to, if we promise something to our citizens, just like I talked about in my very first point, the values that a constitution provides, we need to address them. And we need to make sure that those values are actually promised and are actually ensured to all citizens of India. So those are some policies that I feel we should work on. Of course, economic policies are always going to be there. We need more jobs. We need people to not be underemployed or unemployed. We need people to actually work up to their potential, because only then will we become a developed nation and will we really give each of our citizens the opportunity that they deserve.
Great, Aviral. I guess you've highlighted some great points and the great policies. Certainly, we should take up these initiatives to work for the vision we are aiming for. Kunal, we would love to hear your thoughts regarding
I
this.
think the first thing that can be a catalyst on our development in India at large should be political stability. So the first policy that I suggest is that we need to amend anti-defection bill in our country. We need to see that the people we have elected do not change their stances on issues that they told us. Just see, the two principal parties today in our country are one side there is BJP and other side there is Congress, and both have very different ideological. But if I vote for someone in the BJP, or let's say if I vote for someone in the Congress, and after the election they skip parties, my ideological stance is totally destroyed.
Yeah.
My right to vote is in jeopardy, right? So we need political stability, and as Avril mentioned that debating in parliament, just debating in parliament wouldn't help. As a matter of fact, we are not even debating in parliament nowadays.
Yeah.
Right? There's no debate happening. There's just people throwing books on the cabinet and saying ye rule hai, ye rule hai. So we are not even debating.
Yeah.
Second thing is that there needs to be accountability in politicians. For having political stability, we need to set accountability. We need to tell people कि ये राजा नहीं है, these are your servants. You elect them, you give them power. And then उसके बाद you go to their homes and tell them कि हमारा ये काम कर दो. No, you have to command them. You have the power to do that. You have vote. So vote is something that is the bullet and the gun of politics.
Yeah.
And we need to establish that. And the third thing is, we have these political ideologies which obviously hinder the development. But we need to have both sides. We need to have a defense and we need to have a prerogative. But that doesn't mean that we suck out the credibility from the defense. Media itself is part of the opposition. And we need to address it because we don't count media in the opposition. So that is the second point, that we need to regulate media consciously, not for anyone's own benefit, but consciously regulate it. Third thing is we need a comprehensive policy. Future needs education. Youth needs education. We need to have a good education policy, a comprehensive policy, which keeps intelligence as the forefront, right? Which judges people by the content of their character, by their intelligence, by their competence, and not what they've stacked up in their mind. It should be competence and intelligence coming forward, not memory, right?
Yeah.
If I have read the whole library, if I have that in my mind, I cannot claim to be a scholar until and unless I have assimilated it. So on what scale is the education system judging us or assessing us? We need to recomprehend it and very consciously do that. Jane Rose, in his book on education, says that education is a conscious effort that needs to be taken every day, concisely, slowly, gradually. As soon as you enter 12th grade in the CBSE spectrum, that is the principal spectrum and the principal board in India, as soon as you enter grade 12th, you see, oh, it was easier than 12th, easier than 11th. You enter 10th, you see, oh, it was easier than 9th. It's not about easy or being difficult. It's about, are you learning? The learning aspect is totally gone from our education system. And if we are not educated, how is this youth going to talk? How is this youth going to arrange discussions such as this, right?
Yeah.
So we need to educate people and educate in them right way. We need not edit their textbooks.
Yeah.
That, okay, this is the good history that you should read, right? You should not read about Mughal empress, but you should read about Hindu kings, Chola empires and whatnot. We are living in a modern world and we need to address it, and we need to think for ourselves and the education system very consciously. So these are 3 policies which I think we can work on, and after that we can think of a free India.
Great points, Kunal. And as you mentioned about the reforms in education, certainly we should bring the reforms in education, and or else we are going to produce some dumb youth who is not going to challenge the government in rule, or who is not going to challenge what you do. like what you do in the parliament, like
One thing that I forgot,
yeah, Kunal.
that when we see people around us, we see there is structural, I think, patriarchy, people call it, but there's structural defamation of women, and that exists in our society very much. But on the other hand, the majority of our population claims to worship women, but at the same time raise them and marginalize them in the name of their gender. So government needs to take an action on it. It needs to establish a policy, not reservation. We need not give them cylinders from Ujjwala Yojana, right? We have to tell them that yes, you are empowered. Yes, you can seek, like you can also seek for the truth.
Yeah.
See, a woman being denied entry in a temple on just her gender. Okay? That says something about us and our society. Right? And if we are just breaking out 50% of our population saying that they're useless, are only 15% men who are sitting like a snake on their property, are they going to do something?
No.
Absolutely not. Right? So we need to establish a policy that helps women as well. Not giving कि आपको एक cylinder मिल जाएगा, now you'll get subsidy and you'll get this and that. These are all just political affirmation, hoping for political gain. So we need to change that.
There should be strong reforms around women empowerment and also the involvement in the politics and all the spheres of the government. Certainly, it was great. I guess the reforms and the initiatives you talked about, that basically that can work on the how we can visualize India after 75 years of independence, and that we can rightly visualize and can achieve our vision. Nice talking with you guys. We had a great discussion. Probably the initiatives and the problems we discussed. It was quite impressive on your part to figure out and clearly stating out the facts. You guys must have a good facts, presenting the facts, and had a good research so that we all could know what exactly we are facing and what are the challenges we are facing. What could be the deep rooted challenges we should address quick upon to visualize uh, the India after 75 years of independence. Great talking with you guys and all the viewers who are watching us and who are going to watch us. I hope you enjoyed the session. There was great learning from Kunal, Aviral, and Kulbir. Unfortunately, we lost Kulbir because of some network issues. But nevertheless, we had great points from Kunal and Aviral. Thank you guys for joining in.
Thank you so
Guys,
much, Ashwini.
Thank you. It was an absolute honor to be here. Thank you.
great Kunal, great Aviral.
It was good, discussing on a free channel. Let's say
Yeah.
that we don't get this too often in India right now. So discussing things on a free channel is good. Good for a free India.
That's what we are envisioned to share on our platform, that the youth, the students get a chance to express their views, raise up the immediate concerns. So guys who are watching us, stay tuned for our next episode on next Saturday. Thank you guys. Join you guys. Bye.